Good morning, everybody. I decided that after pretty close to 400 hours, we'll just do a little video review and overview of a 70-degree Husaberg FE390. Of course, they made them in a 450 and a 570 as well. Most of the 450s were FX models, race bikes, but they did make the FE model. 570s also came in a Supermoto model. So anyway, so you can see my Husaberg sitting here with no suspension on it, no wheels on it. So the suspension is off. It's actually on its way back from Factory Connection, who did it originally. That's how I got it from the original owner. Anyway, we'll just kind of start at the front, work our way to the rear, just kind of introduce you to the stuff I've done. A lot of people think 400 hours and 11,000 miles is a lot on an enduro. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Of course, it's not very much on quote-unquote regular motorcycles. But we'll just go through and I'll kind of explain issues and just regular maintenance stuff that we've done, and I guess you can be the judge. So starting with the front, I don't think I've ever replaced the bearings, but I do have some new bearings, and they're going to go in shortly. So finally, after 400 hours, they're a little gritty and a little sticky. So we'll finally get around to taking care of those. So the as I said, the front suspension is off. Just getting maintenance done on it. It was done by Factory Connection from the previous owner. I got the bike with what did I get? I had just about 40 hours and 800 miles on it when I got it 4 years ago, and it was obviously pretty new. So those of you that aren't quite familiar, they call it the 70 degree, because there you can see the motor is the cylinders tipped down almost horizontal about 70 degrees. And instead of the crank being way down here, the crank's now right up here. And this is literally almost the center of gravity of the motorcycle. And the whole design brief was to take all that centrifugal force that affects handling and put it in the middle, the center of gravity of the motorcycle. So what have we done up front? I guess the next thing we'll run into is the radiators. So I just had the radiators off. Just cleaned them and put some new coolant in. It's been a couple years. A couple years ago, you can see I have new coolant hoses on it. This is normally where the thermostat goes. The new hoses don't have a thermostat in them, and there was a good result with that. So I had to put on a new set of hoses because I just sort of tipped over one day up in some rocky stuff and I had a rock literally hit the hose right here, and it put a split in it right here. Luckily there was enough free play I was able to pull it up, but so I just ended up getting new hoses. And one of the big benefits to this silicone hose kit with no thermostat is the water flow is much better, and the normal temperatures, even when it's hot, have gone way down. And I rarely see even over 200 degrees Fahrenheit anymore. And of course you can see it right here. Early on, I installed the KTM fan kit. You can buy some aftermarket kits. This is actually a KTM part. And so the weird thing is, the bracket kind of rivets onto the radiator, so it is kind of permanently attached. And then this is its thermistor sending unit. So when it goes on and off, I think it's set at 95 degrees Celsius to go on and off, and so that's a big benefit. That was one of the things that's happened over the years is with the exhaust pipe going right up underneath the gas tank, it tends to have a little extra heat here. So for really slow going technical riding, almost everybody puts a fan kit on. Do have a Trail Tech on it. It's basically always been on there since I've had it, because I had one off my 640, replaced the original one, Interestingly, you can, if you get the instructions from Trail Tech, you can actually set the hours and miles on these things. This is actually a replacement for the one that was on it because it got some water damage or something, and so Trail Tech replaced it for pretty cheap. Anyway, so it should, quote unquote, have the accurate mileage and hours recorded. And again, I'm just a couple miles less than 11,000 and almost 400 hours. So for those that had never seen one of these things, they have, this is the bottom of the tank. The fuel pump is way down back here. Here's where the fuel electrical connection and the fuel comes out of the tank. And the tank is actually all this. That's the tank, and then here's the top of the tank. The tank is actually the air box, since the injector and the throttle body, I see right here, comes straight up into the air box. The air box is really high, and the air box is actually part of the tank. So the tank and the subframe are just held together with this brace right here. This is the subframe. It's actually hollow. So one time have I replaced the gasket and the rotor and the disc and stuff in the seals in a water pump. Only done that once. So believe it or not, I've done this twice, and I guess I might do it again at 600 hours. So at 200 hours, I checked the valves. They were spot on the money. They were all within range, but kind of at the loose end of the range. I just checked them the other day at 400 hours. They're all still in spec, and they are more in the middle of the 3 thousandths of an inch spec range right now. I did put I think it's California Cycle Works hydraulic cam chain tensioner in. One of the other things that most of us done is, I guess since we're kind of on the tank and I got this exposed, we'll go through the feeling issues. So one thing everybody's experienced, especially 2009 and 10, they improved the pump a little bit, but the stock fuel pumps, since these were basically the first fuel injected motorcycles KTM made, they were the first fuel injected singles. They only fuel injected the big twins like the year before they started fuel injecting these in 2009. So the fuel pumps fail. So there's a couple of aftermarket options. A lot of guys go with California Cycle Works. I have one as a spare. Right now it has a QFS pump in it that's been in there for 200 hours right now. So there's the fuel pump has its own little sock filter. After that, there's a cartridge filter inline. That's been a couple hundred hours since that's when I replaced that pump. That's been in there for 200 hours. And then this little gizmo in here is a zip tie in zip tie racing inline filter. So there's a quick disconnect right here. This is a great big 10 micron stainless steel screen. You just replace the female end of your fuel quick disconnect. The final fuel filter from KTM is a teeny tiny little cone filter that goes inside the fuel line, and it was way inside right at the injector. So you'd literally have to take the tank off, take the intake boot. You got to take the whole damn motorcycle apart to get to that fuel filter. So zip ties moved it down. Not only is there a stainless steel screen that's 10 microns that's as big as this housing, the 20 micron KTM filter is inside the housing, just inside the quick disconnect. So if you have any issues with that thing, you can yank it out right here. You just break it, throw the little fuel filter away, and you still got this big giant 10 micron one. Some guys run without them. I figure for a couple of bucks I'll just use it. I seem to throw them away about every 80 something hours. So the odd thing is this little tiny filter right here does not show up on the Husselberg parts diagram. So if you go to a KTM EXC, once they started fuel injecting them, and it shows up. So unfortunately they kind of left that little bit out, so you got to kind of know from owner experience. And so that's when I found out about the inline filter. I yanked that one out. It didn't have a lot of debris in it, but it was completely clogged up with, basically we'll just call it fuel precipitates and stuff. So I also have a JD Jetting electronic tuner. on here. That also came from the previous owner. Maybe this bike had the fuel injected flame out problems. I don't know. The bike runs so good that I didn't even know how to use it, nor did I care for the first year that I owned this. Maybe another 400 hours before I rebuilt the suspension again. So all it took was wear parts. Nothing was leaking. So that was good. So Factory Connection does a nice job rebuilding them, and they obviously use quality parts because the forks lasted somewhere close to 400 hours, never leaked. And rear shock, I had it rebuilt because I thought it was leaking. It turns out I had a gas leak out of the bottom fitting on that. But so the rear shock has been fine for probably close to 300 hours. Still have original swing arm bearings and still in there, and man, that still feels smooth, so ain't touching that. The original bushings are still in here for the shock. They're super tight, not touching that. Here's the other interesting thing. KTM seems to kind of stick with stuff for quite a while. You'll see on the rear wheel that it has a cush hub. Believe it or not, okay, this is a 2011. They designed it mid 2000s. I'm sure started selling them in 2009. This is the cush hub off my 2000 640 Adventure. So you know, there was just enough hearsay about, especially for me, since I'm dual sporting this thing. I ride it on a lot of gravel roads, paved roads when I need to, but it pretty much does it all. So to mitigate any issues with counter shaft sprocket wear and just make it more comfortable to ride, I had the hub off my 640 laced on there. That's the original spacers and everything, original axle size, all slid right in to the Husaberg, because it's got a KTM swing arm and they haven't changed the axle size or the axle spacing apparently in like 20 plus years, so it all fit right on, super slick. I have done the counter shaft seal one time in the 4 years that I've had it. I also have a Recluse clutch, so it obviously fits inside the stock cover, at least the model that's on this bike. So these covers are kind of a funny color because they are magnesium. On the inside they say MgAl for magnesium aluminum. My ignition cover was actually leaking. There's where the wiring comes out right here. It turns out it was kind of leaking around there, and this was probably more than 300 hours ago. So I took all this off and was looking at this grommet. You could kind of see that on the gasket, even on the gasket, stuff didn't seem like it touched very good. So I put it on our granite countertop with some like 400 grit paper and just lightly sanded it, and then all of a sudden it revealed that there was several high spots, and they were all the bolts. And so in a matter of about 5 minutes, I sanded it just enough so that I touched the whole sealing surface, got it flattened back out on our countertop, and you know, there's a little bit of, there's really not much of anything. There's a little bit of dusty dirt up inside there, but it doesn't leak anymore. So if you got a leak around your ignition cover, your crankcase cover on the left side, you might want to take it off and flatten it, because maybe that magnesium cover warps a little bit. Haven't had any issues out of my clutch cover that I know of. It's a Recluse slave cylinder, and it's adjustable. So there's a little adjustment point right there. It's just a 4mm Allen, so you can adjust the free play of the rod. My Wolfman bags, I carry. I got 2 tubes. Some other stuff in here, all the tools, and spigot for my gas bladder are in here. That stuff just stays in there. I think that's about it for the overview on the Husaberg. So basically in 400 hours, she gets a few replacement parts when she needs it. The only thing that's ever let me down is the fuel pump, but that was a known thing, but I still made it home. 400 hours and over 4 years of use, and it just chugs along. She's awesome. Anybody that's had them and ridden a current KTM knows that the design brief for the handling, I think he met his goal. So good engineer. So just anecdotally, I only use AMSOIL oil products and other products. It's just me. Been using them for over 15 years. I always do extended drain service because that's one of the things that buys you. Cars get oil changed once a year. The Husaberg, use 10W50 dirt bike oil, and it gets oil changes somewhere in the 60 to 70 hour range. Hardly ever even dirty looking. It seems like it's never black, and it doesn't use any oil whatsoever. So the Ducati, more road bikes like the Ducati and the Monkey, they pretty much get a once a year oil change as well. Just for fun, I'm sure somebody will wonder what's going on with the Multistrada. That's how far you got to take it apart just to get to the belts, and then a little bit further apart to do the valves. Obviously this one's almost clear enough, but the horizontal one, you got to at least get the radiator out of the way a little bit. It's no kidding, pretty closer to 3 hours than not to get all the body work off and the tank off. So here's the entire bin of all the body work. Carbon fiber covers for the belts, and then that's all the rest of the body work, panels. That's actually the gas tank, so it's a pretty big gas tank and fits way up underneath comes all the way up underneath here, up underneath the front. If you're wondering how come valve check and belt replacement costs so much, it's because there's somewhere between 5 and 6 hours of labor to take the body work on and off and do all that stuff. So I like to get all that stuff off, even if I take it in, because why should you pay somebody to take your body work on and off? These are all the screws for the left side of the bike, plus the center panel on the tank. That's all the same screws for the right side of the bike, plus the carbon fiber nose fairing. So there's probably 50 screws and little nylon washers and everything. So imagine you get all those lost. This is just the number of screws that hold on the carbon fiber cam belt covers. That's the gas tank stuff, and here's some stuff for the Husaberg. Anyway, that's a lot of fittings, and you can imagine how easy it is to lose this. And unfortunately, it's pretty common to get stuff back from other people that work on your stuff. With you find out later when you take the body panel off that you got screws missing and washers missing, and so